what is between you, your target, and beyond. Okay, mainly meaning know what is past your target as well. Okay, we tend to get tunnel vision. We see from ourselves the target, everything behind it is a blur. Okay? Bullets go through things very, very easily. Okay, whatever is behind your target may very well be hit by the exact same bullet. Okay, and we are responsible for every bullet we fire. Does that make sense? Cool. Any questions on the 4 rules? No. All right. So what I'm going to do now is give you guys these blue plastic inert objects that resemble what you'll be holding later. Alright? This is the time of the day where I see who points a firearm at me and you get to keep the blue gun. So right now, again, I'm going to go over grip and stance. Alright? Is anybody here left-handed? Alright, so just as you've done the rest of your life, and I've done as well, do everything I say completely backwards. Alright? So there's a swoop in the back of the firearm. Alright, right here. Okay, there's also 3 finger grips. All we're going to do is take our trigger hand. So if you're right hand, your right hand, your left hand, your left hand. Okay, you're going to take this webbing between your thumb and your finger. You're going to put that all the way up in the swoop. All right, you see how I don't have a gap here? Okay, if you have a gap, you get the recoil. And the recoil is just once that projectile comes out of the end, there's gases that are pushing it out. Well, those gases are going to push this firearm backwards. Okay, if you have your hand down here, it's going to want to rotate. It's going to want to rotate in your wrist. Okay, it's going to want to go straight towards the sky. If you don't have a gap, it's going to push against your arm, and you'll be able to come back down much faster, making follow-up shots quicker. Does that make sense? Okay. Take your trigger finger, put that high on the frame. Okay, I'm going to come back to that here in a second. You have 3 more fingers, but those are the 3 finger grips. All right, you want to grip the firearm firmly, not so tight that it shakes, okay, but not so loose I can pull it out of your hand. Okay, kind of like you're writing with a pen. All right, nice, easy, firm grip. All right. Back to our trigger finger here. There's a plastic piece around the trigger. It's called the trigger guard. It's just there to make sure you don't accidentally hit that trigger. Alright? Just there to make sure you don't accidentally hit the trigger. The tendency is to rest our finger on the trigger guard. It's a more comfortable angle for our finger. It's more natural. Okay? However, if a bee flies up your nose and stings you, you get scared, you cough, you sneeze. Just press the trigger. Okay? Not a whole lot of plastic to hold on to right there. Okay? On the frame, there's a button with a notch. Everybody see that? Right? All we want to do is put our finger over that, not necessarily in it. Just over that notch. Okay. Every time we take our finger off the trigger, be thinking about that. Be thinking about where that is. Okay. Now we've made this a voluntary movement. We have to go down and back to press the trigger. Does that make sense? Perfect. Take your other hand. You're gonna make a fan. You're gonna karate chop underneath the trigger guard, up against your other hand. Your fingers up against. There you go. Perfect. All right. You want to take your fingers, the valleys of your other. Just gonna rock around. Nice and secure, right? We have a gap right here on the firearm. If you have that, you need to take this hand, rock it backwards, so the padding and your palms are touching together. Just like this. See how I don't have a gap, right? Again, when you get the recoil, if you have a gap here, the firearm wants to take the path of least resistance, so it's going to want to rotate to that gap and get to the fire, so you'll be fighting the gun the whole time. Okay? Make sure we always have grip all the way around. Okay? And while we have grip all the way around, it's important to remember that we only put pressure on the front and back of this grip. We only want the gun to be straight forward. If we put any pressure on the sides, okay, it's going to rotate that firearm around. Okay, a little bit of movement here is a lot of movement on your target. Does that make sense? Yeah? Any questions so far?
Yeah, karate thumb.
I'll explain thumbs really quick right now. So, your thumbs can do one of 3 things, and only one of 3 things. Okay? Whenever I shoot, my thumbs are always next to each other like this. The reason I do that is I can't put any pressure on one thumb. Okay? You can also put your thumbs on top of each other with your trigger thumb on top of your support side thumb. Okay, run along the line of the slide here. Okay? The last and my least preferred method, you can also cross your thumbs. Okay? I don't like doing this. Whenever we're on the line, our hands start to do all sorts of weird things we didn't tell them to do. I mean, this. Right? Just white knuckle everything. What happens when you cross your thumbs and you do that is you're going to start to twist that firearm around. Okay? The sights are only calibrated to be directly on top of the barrel. Nowhere else. Okay? Do we all wonder why gangbangers in LA can't hit anything? Right? Because they all shoot sideways. So, exactly. It's the gangster class. It's later. You gotta pass this one first. So, you always want your sights directly on top. Does that make sense? Okay. With that said, do whatever is the most comfortable. Okay? Being uncomfortable with a firearm is a lot like having a rock in your shoe. If you have a rock in your shoe, that's all your brain thinks about. Okay? Same with your hands in a gun. Okay? If you're uncomfortable, your brain's gonna think about that, and it's not gonna complete the task. Does that make sense? Any questions on grip? No? Alright. Now for stance. Alright, there's 2 types of stances that you can use. Okay? The first is called isometric stance, where you stand square to your target Okay, you point your firearm directly at the target. Okay? Only two types of people should ever do this. Who is it? Two types of people. No. Military and law enforcement. Okay. Any idea why it's only military and law enforcement? No. They're all wearing body armor. Body armor's in the front, right? The body armor's not on the side, so they want to stand square to their target, right? Because I'd much rather be shot in my body armor. If they turn to the side, okay, they just expose that whole side of their body, right? So if they were to catch a round, it's going to go past the body, right? I don't know if any of you wear Kevlar on a daily basis. I don't. Okay, so I want to be a smaller target. It may not seem like much, but if I stand square to you, I'm a pretty wide target. If I turn 45 degrees, about half what I just was. Right? So, what I'm going to teach you guys is called the modified lever stance. All we're going to do is start square to our target. Make sure that your feet are slightly wider than your shoulders. Okay, you want a nice athletic stance. All right? All you're going to do is take your trigger foot, take a full to a half step back. All right? Once you've done that, you want to rotate on the balls of your feet to the direction you just stepped. Okay? You may have to square up your feet again if they're feel kind of weird. All right? What's important from here is that our feet, our knees, our hips, our shoulders are all square all the time. Okay? So we want to make sure our feet are pointed in the same direction. We don't want one foot up here. We don't want both feet up here. All 45 degrees. Okay? So it's almost like if this is your firing line, I'm targeting it straight this direction. I'm going to create a 45 degree, and I'm going to stay on that. All right? Then you want to bend your knees slightly. Okay? Just slightly. We don't want to be down here. You're going to get real tired. Okay? You also don't want to lock our knees. It messes with your circulation and the oxygen in your brain. Okay? At the very least, you're going to get dizzy. All right? Nice, easy bend. Okay? The next thing you want to do is take your front shoulder only. Put it over your front knee. Okay? So pretend there's a pole coming out of your front knee. You just want to put your shoulder over that. All right? You see how just my shoulder is forward? I'm not putting a whole bunch of my weight in. Makes sense? So I don't want to sit out here like this. Okay? Just your shoulders forward. Okay? The reason we're going to do that is now we're holding up this firearm. We're using the underside, upper side, or chest, or core to hold this firearm up. Okay? Lean backwards. Just isolate it to the underside of our arm. Okay? You're going to get tired very, very quickly. The firearm's going to begin to bounce up and down. Okay? Always make sure we're forward. That's whether it's a handgun or a rifle. Okay? Does that make sense? Yeah? The next thing you want to do, once everything is square and you're in the right position, all you're going to do is point the firearm to the target. You see how my left arm is bent, my right arm is straight. Okay? If both of your arms are straight, you turn your shoulders back towards the target, you just open all that back up. The bigger problem with that now is your body is just like a spring. If you twist the spring, you let it go, it wants to come back to where it was. Right? Same with this. If you twist your body here, your body naturally wants to go back. So you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on weird spots. Does that make sense? So only point your arms to the target. They're completely independent of your body. Alright? Any questions on that? No? Alright. The last thing is called isometric tension. Has anyone ever heard of that? Isometric tension. Much easier than this. But basically, it's just tying everything together. All you're going to do is you're going to take your trigger hand and push forward slightly. Take your support hand, pull backwards slightly with the firearm at the same time. Okay, I'm not looking for this. Alright? We're trying to eliminate movement, so let's don't create it. Alright, just nice, easy pressure. All we're trying to do is create a tension point right here on the grip. The reason is a rifle is attached to the body with a stock. Okay, it's right to your shoulder. It's not going anywhere. A handgun is attached to your hands, which are attached to your wrists, which are attached to your elbows, which are attached to your shoulders. Okay, you got a lot of inches between the firearm and you. Alright? By doing that isometric tension, you feel all three of these joints somewhat tighten up. Sorry. You feel all these joints somewhat tighten up. Alright? It's not going to be super tight, just tight enough that you're going to keep this from moving up front. Alright? Any questions? No, I just threw a bucket of water at you. There you go. Alright. No questions on that? Okay. Next thing I want to go over really briefly is the sights. Alright? I want to show you guys the sights in the Glock you're going to be using today. Your sights on the rear are these two posts. You see those? And your front sight is the one post in the front. Okay? On the Glock you're using, there will be a white square-shaped U on that rear sight, a white circular dot on the front sight. Does anybody know what the white markings are for? Just the mark. Yeah, it is. Exactly. They're easy to find your sights. Tactical markings. So you can draw your firearm, okay, and you can easily find your sights. Okay? However, we don't line those up. We're actually lining up the sights themselves, just the posts. Okay, so once you find your sights, those need to blur out of your mind. Okay, the reason is, it's like little kids have the toys, it's the box, the shape's cut out on top, you gotta take the peg, put it in the right hole, right? you guys all want to point down that direction and find something. All right. All we're gonna do, I'm actually gonna fix something on here really quick. Make sure these figures are all good. If you put pressure up here, it's more like a forward point, so any pressure here is going to twist that. You're fine. All right. So you're gonna take that front sight. You want to put it directly between the two rear sights so that it is centered. Then you want it level across the top. Does that make sense? So it's symmetrical in every direction. Right? Once you've done that, this is your front sight. This is the most confusing part. This is your front sight. Okay? You're going to basically cut that bullet in half. So you see half of the bullet hole after you were done. So you want to put the center of where you want that bullet to hit on the top and center of the front sight. Does that make sense?
Where you see it will become flat.
Yeah.
It's actually flat.
Yeah, but you want to put it on the top and center of this. It's where that bullet is going to go. Alright? Does that make sense? It's the most confusing part. So this is your front sight. Your bullet, where you're trying to hit on the target, is going to be front and center of that sight. Okay? Any questions on that? No? Alright. Technically, you should have both eyes open. Just the reason is, if I close one eye, I lost half my field of view. I can't see anything over there, right? So you want to try to keep both of your eyes open. Now that's a skill that needs to be acquired if you haven't done it.
Looks like
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing to do if you haven't done it. You have to train your eyes to know what you're doing. So if you have to close your one eye today, do that. But try to keep both open anytime you can. If there's some more questions, you guys can drop the blue firearms on the table. I'm done with those for now. All right, who here has heard anybody say pull or squeeze the trigger? Pull or squeeze. Yeah? All right. So, which one is correct? Squeeze? This is a big question. They're all wrong. So take both those words, get rid of them. All right? They don't exist here. Let's say you need to pull or squeeze something. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay? The reason, watch what happens to the barrel whenever I pull or squeeze. Tell me where it goes. Down. If the barrel goes down, where does the bullet go? Down, right? The bullet has to follow the barrel. The reason it happens in a handgun is what's called slack. Okay? You can see it's very easy to press, about 1 pound of pressure. Okay? Then you get extra tension at the end. Your trigger press itself is 4 to 4.5 pounds, depending on the trigger. It can be anywhere from 2 pounds to 8 pounds. These are all about 4 to 4.5 pounds. So what's happening whenever you go all the way through? What's happening whenever you go all the way through that trigger is your finger knows it's going to complete the job. Okay, so it's going to go through the easy part, hit the extra tension at the end, and continue to go. And your finger doesn't have time to tell your wrist, tell your brain to tell your wrist, and it needs to work harder, right? It doesn't have time to counteract the extra pressure that you need. Okay, what you do is break it down into 2 steps. So your body has time to communicate. It only takes this long. You've got to give it the time. Okay, so it's very simple. It's 2 steps. All we're going to do is slack out, then press. Okay? Very simple. Slack out, press. You'll definitely feel a difference between slack and trigger push. Alright? Any questions on that? No? You guys will probably be saying slack out and press in your sleep tonight. I'll just say it 1,000 times. So. Any questions on anything I've gone over? No such thing as a dumb question. Nothing? Good? Alright. So now what I'm going to do is go over the functions of each firearm. Okay, I'm going to go over quite a bit of function on the Glock. The reason is handguns, especially the Glock, are the most commonly found self-defense firearm in the United States. Okay, I'm going to go over a little bit less than the AR-15. Main reason is functions are the same between the two. Go over a little bit of the K-47. Alright? The reason is it's a lot of information. You probably won't remember it all. Okay? This is definitely more information to find it, right? This is slightly different in the way it functions. Alright, so you're just going to get confused. Forget everything else I said. So we're going to do a lot of this one for you. You'll know how to use it before you leave. It's just easier to help you so you feel it rather than trying to explain it. So if there's no questions, I'm going to start on these. Good to go? Right. So this is the Glock 17. It is a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. Does anybody want me to explain what semi-automatic means? semi-automatic. You're gonna have what's called a magazine. This is a magazine. Okay. You're gonna insert that magazine. You still have to put the first round in because it won't do it automatically. But each time you press the trigger, it's going to cycle everything it needs to cycle. Okay. Only it's gonna fire one round each time you press the trigger, no matter how long you hold that trigger down. Okay. Versus something fully automatic, if you press the trigger and you keep holding it, it's gonna continue to fire. All right. Does that make sense? Perfect. So I'm going to go over the functions of this firearm from the top down. It's usually the easiest, right? So on the top we have the sight. We talked a little bit about that. Okay, this is your slide. Moves backwards at more than 100 miles an hour. Moves forwards at about the same. Okay? Whenever I set our thumbs going to do one of three things, it's very important that our thumbs are always touching on the same side. You notice that they're always together. Never cross the thumb behind the firearm. Okay? The slide will go over your thumb nice and easy. Okay? It'll come back and cut you like razor blades. For the first 5 seconds, you probably won't even know anything happened. It's really going to hurt. Okay? Very importantly, never put the finger behind. Okay? Definitely don't put your thumb on the slide itself. Okay? The slide's going to move. Alright? So that's your slide. Okay? The hole here is your ejection port. Alright? There's a small metal cylindrical object that's going to come out of the top of this each time you fire. It's called a casing. It's supposed to come out of the top of the firearm. Please don't think you broke it and drop it on the floor. It's going to happen with all the firearms in the tabletop. Alright? But while we're talking about casings, again, they're metal. Very thin metal. It's a heat conductor. So if you fire, it's going to be kind of hot. Okay? So, if you happen to catch it down the front of your shirt, down the back of your shirt, behind your ear, between your sunglasses and your face, alright? Your first instinct is going to be to freak out. Okay? Your brain just switched to, oh my gosh, I'm on fire. Okay? We have a firefighter, so good job. But please remember that we have a loaded firearm in our hands. Okay? Whether it is loaded or not, it is always loaded. Okay? Very important, we always keep it in a safe direction. If you happen to catch it down the front of your shirt, okay, all you're gonna do is stop what you're doing. Put your finger off the trigger on the frame. Okay? Grab the front of your shirt, pull it away from your body for 2 to 3 seconds, it'll cool down. Okay? Same with the back of your shirt. Okay, behind your ear, try to bat your ear. The hardest one to remember, if it goes between your sunglasses and your face, you're not going to die. Take your sunglasses off. Okay? But it's important to remember a burn mark will go away in about a week. Okay? A bullet hole, who knows? Okay? So, very, very important that if that happens, we are always conscious of where this is. Alright? Questions on that? No? Anybody want to go home? On this side, the lever. Okay? I'm going to show you what it does. The lever is pretty lever. Everything it needs to do. Okay? We have this magazine. You fire the whole round. This fire is going to function like it always does. If you button the magazine, it's going to press that lever up. Lock slot. It's the only way going to block steady. So down here, locate behind the trigger on the left hand side of the firearm. Okay? It's called a magazine release button for your keyboard. Now I'm going to show you guys the magazine. But we talked a little bit about the trigger guard. We talked a little bit about the trigger. However, on the trigger, there's this floating black plastic piece. Okay? That is the only safety on the Glock. Okay? If it is not depressed, the trigger will not go anywhere. If it is, it will. Okay? It's funny how our finger makes it go back every single time we touch it. Okay? Our finger just became our #1 safety on the Glock. Okay? Does that make sense? Now it won't go off. Just don't have your finger on it. Just don't put your finger on it. I'll show you guys here in a second. Right? Any questions on any of that before I do load and unload? No? Alright. So I'm going to give you guys 2 of these magazines. Okay, we're going to put them down in our left-hand pocket or your right-hand pocket. Alright? Any idea why I put them with the bullets down? When I take the magazine out of my pocket, the bullets are up so I can load it quicker. Right? If the bullets are up, I'm holding the bullets now. Right? I have to rotate it on my hand. And I guarantee in a high-stress situation, your magazine is 10 feet in front of you on the floor. Okay? Always keep the bullets down. Alright? I'm going to have you guys up on the line. Anytime we're not firing, I want you guys in what's called the ready position. Okay? The ready position is simple. Grip, quick stance, put the firearm halfway between the target and your feet. Okay? The reason is if something were to happen and the firearm goes off, you point it at your target. You might hold a grudge. You point it at your foot, you're probably going to hold a grudge. Right? I've yet to have the dirt yell at me. So, always keep the firearm here. Anytime I call ready position, this is where I want it. Okay? From here, I'm going to ask you to load a magazine. What you're going to do is you're going to rotate the magazine to the side, make sure the barrel stays exactly where it was. Just rotate on the barrel. Okay? You want the bottom of the firearm to your offhand because that's what you're going to use to load it with, whatever pocket you have the magazine. Right? Take the magazine out of your pocket, pull it up and forward. These are big a healthy slap. Don't be afraid to slap the magazine. Worst thing we can do is not hit the magazine, come back up, and it falls out. And you don't have any bullets. Halfway in, do the slap. You're not going to break the magazine. Okay, no matter how hard you hit that. Okay, if you break a magazine, I'll call you the Hulk. I'll give you a new magazine, and we'll just move on from where we were. Okay, it never happened. So, slap the magazine back into your hands at 45 degrees in the right position. All right. Now I'm going to ask you to charge the firearm. Who here has not seen a movie with Bruce Willis? All right, so we're all on the same page. So he always starts the fire from the sky, grabs the two fingers, pulls it back, lets it go. Generally in an air duct. Okay. A few different problems with that. All right. It's true. A few different problems with that. What is rule number 2? Rule number 1 is all guns are always loaded. Never point a fire at anything you don't want to destroy. If I point at the sky, do I know where I'm actually pointing? No, not until I read the news the next day, right? So never point a fire at the sky. Okay. Second, use the small motor movement of 2 fingers to pull this back and let it go. When you're in a high stress situation, your body begins to shut down all non-essential functions. Okay. You get tunnel vision, meaning you can't see as much. You get auditory exclusion, meaning you can't hear as much. Okay. And in turn, your hands just became crab claws. Okay. You no longer have fingers. Try to send a text message on your phone while you're being shot at. I bet it just comes up jumping. Okay. So if I know I'm going to have crab claws, I'm going to train with them. That way I have them when I need them. Does that make sense? So what we're going to do is called the bridge. It's very simple. You're going to take this padding of your palm, your serrations on either side of the slide on the back. Okay, it's exactly what it's here for. You're going to put your palm on one side, your fingertips on the other, only on the serrations. Okay, you see how you can see the sight still. I made a bridge. Right? That's why I call it bridge. Right? Once you've done that, you're going to pull the slide back until it stops. Once it stops, you're going to let go of the slide and slap your shoulder, just like this. Alright? You might feel like you look goofy, but I guarantee your gun closed. Okay, it will fire. If we pull it back, we help it back forward, chances are it's not going to close correctly, it's not going to fire. Okay? If you're going to do it, mean it. Alright? So again, you don't have to pause, you just pull straight back, let it go just like that. Alright? This is what's going to look like when it's empty, only no bullets inside. Okay? To extract this magazine, disregard everything I say for 30 seconds. So extract this magazine. You're going to rotate it to the side, just like we loaded it. Alright? You're going to hold the magazine well itself, so you can actually hold the fire using your thumb. It's not long enough to press this button. You have to rotate your trigger hand around, press that button in like a key on a keyboard, take the magazine out, back in your pocket. Make sense? So, rotate, press, pull. Alright? For lefty, they can all, everyone but you, me, and Earl, can write on whiteboards. We can't, but we can extract magazines, right? So, all we're going to do is come back down to the ready, take your trigger finger, drop it straight back to that button, press the button, pull your magazine. Cool? Right. Any questions on the Glock at all? Civilian version of the United States military's M4 rifle. Does anybody know the only major difference between the two?
No.
No. So, the military has what's called select fire. They can fire 1 round per trigger press, or they can fire 3 rounds per trigger press, called a 3-round burst. Okay? Ours, unfortunately, is only semi-automatic. We can fire 1 round per trigger press. Okay? But functions very briefly. I don't know why I closed that. The hole here. Okay, that is your ejection port. That's where those cases are going to come out. These are very, very reliable. They're generally going to be 15 degrees forward and 15 degrees back. Okay? Whenever we get done, there should be a nice little pile when we're done. That piece of metal that just came forward. Okay, that is your bolt. The bolt is the same thing as the slide on the Glock. It does the same stuff. Right? The main difference is everything on this rifle is going to actuate internally when you fire. Nothing on the outside is going to move. Right? Does that make sense? Down here you have your trigger guard. You have your trigger inside. Okay, the main difference between this trigger and that trigger is your safety is now located on the rifle. Okay, on this side of the rifle, so on the right hand person's thumb side, on the left hand side of it, there's a little arrow. You guys see the arrow pointing down the barrel right now, right? It's on safe. It's actually stamped safe. If it is pointing towards the sky, it is on fire. Safe, fire. All right, we'll walk you guys through when we're going to flip that from safe to fire, make sure it gets flipped the right direction. But while we're talking about safeties, it's important to remember they are all mechanical. Just like your vehicle, every time you put the key in and turn it, it might not start. Okay? There's just a pin and a spring inside there. If you flip it back to safe, it might not be on safe. Okay? 99.9% of the time it is. Please don't flip it on safe. Press the trigger. Alright? Leave it on safe, leave it alone. It's just a back. Alright? I'm going to show you guys the rest of the functions, but it's easier to show you when we load and unload, just so that way you can see everything we got. Before I do that, I have to show you guys how to hold it. Do you have any questions about what I've already done? What we're going to do when I hand you this rifle is you're going to take your support side hand, grab this foregrip, the plastic piece is just there for you to hold. Okay? Once you've done that, your hand is now cemented to the rifle. Pretend I've taken duct tape around your hand 10 times and it's not going to move. If you continue to move your hand off of this. Now we'll take duct tape and wrap it around your hand 10 times so it doesn't move. All right? Hand always needs to stay here. Okay? Take your other hand. 3 fingers in the grip, 1 finger high on the frame, just like the Glock. Does that make sense? Never put 4 fingers on the grip. One reason is because they don't fit very well. But the other one is because then you got to come up and try to find your trigger. Okay? 1 on the frame. Now you have the buttstock of the rifle. You got to put that somewhere. Just put that in the meaty portion of your shoulder. You don't want it on your arm. You don't want it on your chest. It's not a bazooka. It's not a B, right? It's also you don't want it on your arm because it's really hard to see the sights. You can't see the sights. It's just a guessing game down range, right? So, right in the meaty portion of your shoulder. The next important thing is tuck your elbows straight down. 2 different reasons we do that. If your elbow is out, the stock can move back and forth. Okay? If your elbow's down, it's not going to move. Okay? Also, your collarbone runs from your shoulder to your chest. Just so happens, sits right here on the rifle stock. Okay? If your elbow's out, you stretched out all that meat in that pocket, there's a good chance it's going to hit your collarbone. Rifle stock and bone hurts. Not very forgiving. Okay? Tuck your elbow down, it's going to pull all that meat in, it's going to cushion, and it's never going to touch your collarbone. Does that make sense? So again, once it's in that pocket, just tuck your elbow straight down. Okay? Whenever we're going to fire this rifle, we're going to start in the ready position. Okay? Whenever I say fire, we're just going to come. We're going to come